Today we're going to talk about a quieter coastal town along the Grand Strand. Of course, I'm talking about Pawleys Island, South Carolina. Thanks for watching Coastal Living with Phil T. Let's talk more about it. A quiet town along the coast of South Carolina. Of course, I'm talking about Pawleys Island. It is a quaint, small town along the South Carolina coast. It's one of the oldest seaside communities in America, home to beautiful beaches, world-class golf, and incredible restaurants, as well as a pace of life that's very different from other areas here in the Myrtle Beach area. Today, I am going to show you exactly what it's like to live here so you can decide if it's right for you. So let's start out with talking about where exactly is Pawleys Island, South Carolina. Well, today I'm going to show you exactly where it's at. As you can see, you have the Myrtle Beach area right here, along with Surfside Beach, Myrtle's Inlet, Litchfield by the sea, and that is where we go find Pawleys Island. When looking at Pawleys Island, this town in South Carolina, very small, historic, just north of Georgetown, South Carolina, which is down here. A beautiful little town, by the way. A lot happening in Georgetown. But today, like I said, we're going to talk about Pawleys Island. When I talk about Pawleys Island, the area in which I'm going to be talking about is going to be this area right here. So when I'm talking about Pawleys Island, though, there's certain areas that may be considered Litchfield Beach, which is considered part of Pawleys Island, as well as North Litchfield. But this area right here is the area that I am going to be talking about when I'm talking about Pawleys Island. So like I said, Litchfield Beach here, Pawleys Island, and of course you have the North Litchfield area just south of the Brook Green Gardens. This here is actually Huntington State Park, which is part of Myrtle's Inlet. So I'm not exactly sure where that line is. I believe it's like right in this area here. There's no homes in that area. You got the Brook Green Garden on one side and Huntington State Beach, Huntington State Park on the other side. But as you can see, I'll tell you what, when it comes down to charm, when it comes down to just being a great little town, Pawleys Island definitely has it going on. This here is just some photos folks have put up on Google through the years. And I'll tell you what, I mean, the sunsets down there, just the coastal living is just so amazing down there in Pawleys Island and Litchfield Beach. So as you can see, Pawleys Island is definitely a beautiful town with some real true coastal charm. Let's talk about the history of Pawleys Island. After all, Pawleys Island has a history unlike anywhere else along the Grand Strand. Long before European settlers arrived, the area was actually home to the Waccamaw people, like we've talked about before in Myrtle's Inlet, a Native American tribe that lived throughout the now Georgetown and Horry counties. They chose this area because it provided everything they needed, from fresh water to abundant fish, shellfish, fertile land, and easy access to the rivers and marshes. In fact, back in the day, there was no Highway 17, so when it came down to getting around, they used a lot of the Waccamaw River right here that you see in the map, also now considered our intercoastal waterway. They lived off of fishing, hunting, farming, and of course gathering oysters and clams, some of which we still do here in the area today. By the early 1700s, English settlers began settling throughout the area, drawn by the same natural resources that attracted the Waccamaw people for generations. Over time, large rice plantations actually developed along the rivers, and the history of Pawleys Island began to take shape. As more settlers arrived, they discovered that the low-lying river floodplains were actually perfect for growing rice. During the 1700s and even early 1800s, rice became one of South Carolina's most valuable exports. The large plantations were established throughout the Waccamaw Neck. A lot of this land is actually very low-lying, which made it really easy to flood. The flooding, of course, was controlled. That way they could grow the rice and make it float when they needed to. Landowners actually built elaborated dikes, canals, and floodgates to manage these water levels. Much of this engineering can actually still be seen today in parts of the Lowcountry. Did you know at one point, Georgetown County actually became one of the wealthiest rice-producing regions in America? Now today, many of the neighborhoods, as well as golf courses and roads, were once part of these historic plantations. Names like Willbrook, Heritage, and others actually reflect the history, even though the land has changed dramatically over the years. By the mid 1800s, wealthy plantation families began escaping the summer heat, mosquitoes, and of course malaria inland to crossing over to Pawleys Island. They built summer cottages along the beach, and that's where the Pawleys Island reputation as a seaside retreat began. One thing you'll see everywhere in Pawleys Island is the rope hammocks. They actually originated here and they become one of the area's most recognizable traditions. It actually shows off the slower pace of life that Pawleys Island likes to offer. I think one of the fascinating things about Pawleys Island is when you're driving around today, you're not just looking at another beach town. You're actually driving through hundreds of years of history, the Native American history, the colonial settlement, the rice plantations, and of course the coastal living. It's all helped shape the community you see today in Pawleys Island. Speaking of today's life in Pawleys Island, what is it like? Well, in Pawleys Island, you can expect quiet mornings. Some great coffee, of course, walking the dogs on the beach, as it's a very active community when it comes to folks walking the beach, especially along the Pawleys Island itself and Litchfield area. Of course, a lot of people move to Pawleys because of the golf. And of course, the fishing is great, whether you're on the outside beach area, ocean area, or on the intercoastal. You won't find the giant hotels. You won't find a boardwalk or amusement parks. In fact, it's a quiet area. Some of the biggest attractions are probably the hammock shops, which are located right here off 17. I will say if Myrtle Beach feels energetic, Pawleys Island feels peaceful. People don't move there because there's a lot to do. They move there because it really slows down their way of life. Imagine just waking up, of course, grabbing a coffee, taking a walk on the Litchfield beach, playing a round of golf, and then having lunch, maybe at Caledonia, over the marsh, taking a look at the boats coming down the intercoastal waterway, and ending your evening sitting under the live oaks with a hammock gently swaying in the breeze. That is everyday life when it comes down to it in Pawleys Island. Now, let's be honest, you're moving to a coastal town probably because you love the beach, right? Well, at least have a love for the beach. When it comes down to Pawleys Island, you have a couple different beaches to actually choose from, though they're made up of two main beaches, but the way that the neighborhoods work out, it's really cut into a few. So let's start with North Litchfield. This is the North Litchfield area. As you can see, you got beach accesses throughout this area, as well as parking. Now, when you get down into this area here, what you're going to be going into is called Litchfield by the Sea. This is a private gated community. Now, there aren't gates out on the beach. You can walk right down the beach. You can walk right through that area, but access to the beach in those areas, so if you're looking for parking, is only for if you're part of that HOA of Litchfield by the Sea. So just keep that in mind. And by the way, that's from about this area right here to about, let's see, about this area here. So this area is all Litchfield by the Sea. That's all going to be private parking. So if you're in the Litchfield area, one of the areas you're going to want to park is probably this large parking lot right here. This is part of the tennis courts for Litchfield by the Sea, as well as their main access to the beach and so much more. They have some pools back there, and it's a great area. It's one of the great amenities of Litchfield by the Sea, but like I said, you got to be part of that. So then if you head south from there, you go into southern Litchfield. So this is going to be South Litchfield here. As you can see, that is going to be your causeway to get over. There are some parking accesses along there. And then you go down to Pawleys Island after you go through the inlet. When you get down to Pawleys Island, you're going to have a couple different accesses, including the 2nd Street beach access. Now, just know that there's two causeways that come into to Pawleys Island, but the road to get through there can be very narrow, and during Saturdays, a lot going on. Now, when you go to Pawleys Island, it is actually free and permitted between 6 a.m. and 11 p.m. You can park in one of the 9 designated parking access or public accesses or along roadways. You just got to be 5 feet of the pavement edge. So make sure your tires are all off the road, but you cannot park overnight. So just kind of think about that. The nice thing about Pawleys Island, they're not high-rise hotels that the beaches are packed. You're going to see a lot of your neighbors out there and so much more. So going to the beach in Pawleys Island going to be a lot different feel than hitting some of the beaches in Myrtle Beach or around the Grand Strand. So we can't talk about Pawleys Island without talking about golf. After all, golf is a way of life when it comes down to the Pawleys Island area. Let's talk about some of the best courses right now. In fact, there's a few. The first one we're going to talk about is Caledonia. Caledonia Golf and Fish Club. It is definitely the premier course, especially considering it's public, not only in Pawleys Island, but actually the whole Myrtle Beach area. It's more expensive than the average local courses, but golfers come here for the full experience, and tee times aren't always easy to get. From the Oak Line entrance to the famous 18th green, Caledonia is definitely one of a kind. To play around in Caledonia, you're going to look about $150 to $230 depending on the time of year. It's definitely a bucket list course when it comes down to it for folks who want to golf here in the area along the Grand Strand. As you can see, a lot of challenging holes, a lot of water, but a lot of fun. The next one we're going to talk about is True Blue. True Blue is Caledonia's sister course, another course created by Mike Stantz. It's a very different personality when it comes down to courses. It's bigger, wider, visually bold, and it has a lot of waste area, which I end up seeing a lot of, especially when I've played there. I do have a great story about this course, though, playing there once, which we'll talk about a different time, but it was a lot of fun. It is definitely a golfer's golf course. Gives you plenty of room off the tee, but the angles and enormous greens make you think there's makes you think through every single shot. It's still a premium round, in fact, $95 to about $180 when it comes down to a round of golf there. Tee times can be tough to get, but the nice thing is it is public, so you can go out there about any time. You don't have to be a member or anything, but you can go out there and hit around if you can find, like I said, a tee time. The next golf course we're going to talk about is Pawleys Plantation Golf and Country Club. Pawleys Plantation Golf and Country Club is technically semi-private, but it's open for public play. The front nine goes through trees, while the back nine opens into the marsh, creating a awesome differentiate, like the different sides you'll see when it comes down to being in Pawleys Island. It's definitely worth checking out. The course also just had major renovations in 2023, so make sure you check it out. And it's not going to cost you too much either, anywhere between $90 to $150, and was created by Jack Nicklaus. So make sure you check out Pawleys Plantation Golf and Country Club. Like I said, definitely one of a kind, especially considering the differential between the front nine and the back nine. Next, we're going to head to Willbrook Plantation. As you can see, Willbrook Plantation is definitely back in the trees, but don't let that fool you. It's definitely a great course designed by Dan Maples. It definitely combines the scenery, history, and playability in the Pawleys Island area. It winds through the moss-covered oaks and wetlands, but it doesn't beat up the average golfer. It has been called Dan Maples' best designs and actually received some strong recognition for being welcoming to women golfers, which is great. You can expect to pay between $55 and $90. The nice thing is it's very playable and very scenic, as you can see. Make sure you go check it out next time you're in town. The next club is the River Club. The River Club is a great choice for golfers who want a little bit more challenge, but not pay the premium course prices. Water comes into play throughout the round, and the finishing holes can absolutely change your scorecard. In fact, it's a par 5 going into the 18. Just know that summer rates can run you about $59 for late play, $80 in the early morning so make sure you prepare and just figure out which one works best for you. Like I said, just be ready for that 18th hole. You could be hitting them good and then get to that 18 hole and it could change your whole day. Next, we're going to check out Tradition Golf Club. Tradition Golf Club is a Ron Garl design with tree-lined fairways, 5 sets of tees, and a traditional country club feel. It feels more like the old school country clubs, and it's well balanced, of course, challenging, and without being overly intimidating, which is something I definitely need. It makes it a strong option for an everyday golfer or just someone local that wants to go hit 18 and not be totally pushed in the dirt when they look at their score. You can expect to pay anywhere from $60 to $90, so make sure you check it out. And of course, you should be able to get a tee time, as though it's popular, there's definitely a lot available at this time. The next club we're going to check out is Heritage Club. The Heritage Golf Club is another course where the setting is almost as memorable of the golf. Of course, the moss-covered trees, the marshland, and a classic Lowcountry feel. It generally sits a step above the standard daily fee course. Make sure you check out the Heritage Club when you can. $75 to about $120 what you'll spend for a round of golf, and it definitely has that classic Lowcountry feel that you're going to expect on a golf course in the area. Next, we're going to check out the Founders Club at Pawleys Island. The Founders Club is an easy club to find. You'll find it right there off 17. In fact, that's where the parking lot is. It's one of the better choices for someone who just wants a local round at a reasonable price. It's approachable for recreational golfers, but still has some strategic bunkering to keep better players interested. By the way, it's noted as one of the Golf Pass top ranked courses in South Carolina back in 2024, and very affordable. You can get a round of 18 for about $55 to $85 depending on the season. One of the best parts about living in the Pawleys Island area is the variety. You can play bucket list courses like Caledonia and True Blue, or enjoy the private club atmosphere of Pawleys Plantation without necessarily becoming a member. Or play an excellent local course like Traditions River Club Founders for roughly $60 to $90. Golf can be affordable or as premium as you want to be, which makes Pawleys Island one of a kind when it comes down to the golf lifestyle. So now that we've talked about some of the great golf courses around the area, let's talk about some of the neighborhoods that do surround them. Starting out with the Reserve. Definitely one of the luxurious, nicer neighborhoods in the Pawleys Island area. West of 17, just across from Litchfield by the sea, which you also get access to, by the way. Homes you'll find between $1 and $2 million. So make sure that you are prepared to know that it can be a little bit more expensive to live there. The thing about the Reserve is definitely its access to, the marina and the Intercoastal Waterway, which is one of a kind, and you don't find that very often in the Grand Strand, but then you also have the beach club access as well. Within the Reserve, you're going to find security 24/7. By the way, the marina has a pool and multiple boat slips, as well as pools throughout the whole neighborhood and multiple tennis courts. So if you're looking for amenities or luxury, the Reserve is somewhere you're going to want to be. But like I said, be prepared, as homes are from $1 to $2 million. The next neighborhood we're going to talk about is Litchfield by the Sea. It's a beach community made up of various neighborhoods with a mix of homes, condos, as well as townhomes with various price points. Located just east of 17, you'll find full-time security, a Starbucks right outside the entrance, a beach club right there on the ocean, as well as tennis courts. And each neighborhood has their own pool, as well as a bigger shared pool for the whole neighborhood as well. A lot of times within Litchfield by the Sea, you'll find vacation homes and some folks that live there primarily, or like I said, there's also secondary homes in that neighborhood, as well as vacation rentals. So just think about that. If you're looking for somewhere that's pretty, secluded and tough to get into, Litchfield by the Sea definitely offers that secure feel. Next is Pawleys Plantation. As we talked about their golf course, well, the Pawleys Plantation neighborhood is situated throughout the golf course. You can find pools, clubhouse, bar, of course, many homes built in about the 1990s. With a value of between $400,000 to $700,000 is what you'll find homes that go for. Great views of the water and marsh areas, and it's just south of Pawleys on the east of 17. It's definitely a great area to check out. The next neighborhood is Hagley. Now, the thing about Hagley is the HOA is voluntary, so you don't have to join it if you don't care to. Homes feature larger lots, but built back in the 70s. Of course, some are newer as folks have bought lots in there and developed them. It is west of 17, and they have a boat ramp right there at the end of Hagley Drive, but just know that it is limited parking. Some homes do have docks in the neighborhood, as they do back up to the Intercoastal Waterway. Heritage Plantation is a neighborhood that features 24-hour security on the golf course of Heritage, and of course features pools, tennis courts, pickleball, croquet, playground, and of course a clubhouse with a fitness center. A wide variety of price range homes in the 600s for affordability, and they go up into the multi-million. Of course, they do have a marina on the Intercoastal and some beautiful live oaks. So if you're looking for that golf and waterway lifestyle, Heritage Plantation is definitely a great option. One that I would definitely like to mention too is Prince George. Now, Prince George is all the way on the south side of Pawleys Island. In fact, it's almost to Debadoo. It's one of the area's most exclusive communities, offering both oceanfront and riverfront sections with large custom homes, very private setting, and incredible nature surrounding. In fact, $3 to $4 million is where your price tag is going to be for these homes. It's right there at the end of Pawleys Island as you head towards Georgetown. If you go a little bit further than Prince George, you'll find Debadoo. Now, Debadoo is actually part of Georgetown itself. So it's one thing to kind of take into consideration as you're not part of Pawleys, but it's definitely a beautiful neighborhood, and I wanted to at least mention it. I got to say, one of the things I personally love about Pawleys is that every neighborhood has its own personality. It also has its own costs and its own HOAs, so make sure you take that into consideration if it's something that you're looking for or not looking for. Either way, if you want information about any of these neighborhoods, feel free to reach out. So when it comes down to home prices in the Pawleys Island area, you're probably wondering, what does it cost? Well, that's what I'm here to tell you today. In fact, if you're looking for a condo in the Pawleys Island area, you can find some in the Pawleys Pavilion as well as Summer House in the upper 100s to over $1 million in the oceanfront areas, especially in Litchfield. If you're looking for a ranch home in the Pawleys Island area, you can expect to spend about $300,000 to start up and just go up from there. If you're looking for a home in one of the golf course communities, Hagley has them in the 300,000 range, as well as their median price is roughly in the 600,000s. In the Reserve and Pawleys Plantation, homes can reach anywhere from $1.2 to $1.8 million, so definitely a little bit of a different price tag. In the luxury category, well, that's where you can find plenty of homes down in the south side of Pawleys Island, whether you're looking in the reserves or also on the north side or Prince George. Homes are in the $3 to $4 million range. And if you're wanting to go oceanfront, well, you can find them from $2.7 million with an average of 3.8, with some being sold for as much as 6.3 million, including this beauty right here. If you're heading inland and you'd rather be on the waterfront side of the intercoastal, you'd expect to pay about $2 million or more. But just know that the inventory of these homes is very low, as not many come to market. Now, you do have some homes that are in neighborhoods with docks that you have access to in the high 800s. When it comes down to inventory, as I've said, all in Pawleys Island, it can be very slim, as a lot of people don't really move out of Pawleys Island. But there is something in every price category. It just depends on how much you're looking for, what you're looking for, and how many renovations you're willing to do. The one thing worth noting is when it comes down to golf cartability in Pawleys Island, due to the fact that 17 runs right down the middle of it, it does make it tough to find neighborhoods that are golf cart able to go to the beach and go to restaurants and such. So it's definitely one thing to take into consideration and think about if that's a huge thing for you. As you have seen probably before on different videos I've done here, one thing I always talk about is flood zones. Why? Well, living in a coastal area, it's very important to understand your flood risk as well as the cost of what it's going to do to insurance. So one question I do get all the time is, how much is flood insurance in Pawleys Island? And really, it depends on where you're buying. On the mainland, many homes outside the flood area, which is just the area with no shading here, you're going to be able to buy flood insurance between $500 and $900 a year because you're not in a flood zone. Then you go into the area of tan or orange, whatever you want to call it, which is very limited in Pawleys Island, and those homes are in the AE area, and you can expect to spend about $1,200 to $2,500. Now, when you get into the areas of blue, I'm sorry, that's the AE area. When you go into the area of AE and VE, you're going to find anywhere from $2,500 to $5,000 a year. But of course, it also depends on what the house actually costs. Now, the one thing to look at as this map does move is the area of actual Pawleys Island is all a flood zone. So that's one thing to remember, as well as even onto 17. I mean, 17 is back here in this area. You have to head pretty far inland to not be in a flood zone. But because you have the Waccamaw River on the west side of Pawleys Island over here, and a lot of that area is still very low country, as you can see, a lot of these neighborhoods have a lot of flood zones. Now, the one thing that folks definitely get confused about is they feel that, well, and they ask this all the time, what is the current owner paying for flood insurance? And you can't always go by that. Now, sometimes flood quote or flood insurance is assumable. It just depends on it all depends on the policy and the underwriter and all that. But under today's pricing system, normally it all depends on the property and the buyer. It can be different each time. So just keep that in mind. Though the buyer is now paying, or the seller is paying a certain price, don't always think that's going to be you going forward. So make sure you do your research as always, and have the knowledge of what flood zone you're going to be in, and find out what your flood risk is. Just because you're west of 17 doesn't mean you're not in a flood zone when it comes down to Pawleys Island. Like every coastal community, flood insurance really depends on the individual property, not the town. Some homes require it, especially if you have a mortgage, while others don't. So make sure you understand this before you make an offer, as I would hate for you to lose out on any money if you find out that you need flood insurance and we're not prepared to have to pay for it. Well, let's talk about the pros and cons of Pawleys Island. It's always tough to make up a cons list because there's such great things about all these beach towns, but I have to be honest with you because after all, that is my job and that's what I like to do, is be honest with you about the place you're moving. After all, I want you happy with me after the transaction, or even after watching one of these videos for information instead of being mad at me. So one of the main pros of moving to beautiful Pawleys Island has to be the beaches. They're very quiet. They're very, there's just not a lot going on. It's just very relaxing, but traffic or parking can be a little tough to them sometimes. Either way, it's definitely a beautiful, if you're living there, you don't have to really worry about that because you can walk to the beach, right? Beautiful beaches. The other thing is less traffic on secondary roads. Excellent golf. It is a quiet town after all. It's known as the Hammock Coast. It has some historic charm, especially that beautiful little chapel over there on the Intercoastal Waterway. It has some great restaurants, everything from Rustic Table to Frank's to Bistro 217 and so many more. There's so many great restaurants down there in Pawleys Island. In fact, we like to go down there quite often. You have nature all around you. In fact, there's a lot of area of green space as well as that low country feel, and you have strong property values. When it comes down to the cons, well, because you have strong property values, you're going to have higher prices. You're also going to have limited inventory. As I said, there's a limited inventory when it comes down to the homes in Pawleys Island. Less nightlife. It's not really a big nightlife area. If you're looking for that, it's more towards Myrtle. Longer drive to the airport because that is located in Myrtle Beach. Your shopping is somewhat limited, even though you do have some of the smaller box stores as well as the Pawleys hammock shops and much more. If you're looking for shops like Target, you will have to travel up to the Surfside area and fewer larger employers. But of course, if you're looking to retire, then maybe this is the area for you. In fact, you don't want to have to work, right? Speaking of work, who is this perfect for? Well, like I said, retirees. They're going to love living here. Of course, if they love golf, especially. Remote workers, because, all you need is an internet connection. Luxury buyers looking for one-of-a-kind homes in the Lowcountry. Also, second homeowners that just want to come visit a quiet little town week in and week out during the summer, or maybe during the fall or winter. Second homeowners are going to love, of course, the golf, which anybody that's a golfer will love living here too. Nature lovers, this is definitely a place for you, as there is a lot of green space, a lot of marsh area, and you're very close to Brook Green Garden as well as Huntington State Park. And families just seeking a slower pace of life. You're going to love living in the Hammock Coast, also known as Pawleys Island. So if you're looking for that hammock lifestyle along the Carolina coast, Pawleys Island might be for you. If you have more questions about the area, reach out. And if there's another area along the Grand Strand or the Carolina coast you're interested in, another community, leave a comment below. And who knows, might be my next video. Thanks for watching Coastal Living with Phil T. Make sure you subscribe and follow, and let me know what you think of the videos.